Okay then. So thank you all for coming today. This is a guest lecture that is hosted by the Business Confucius Institute, and I am delighted to have with me Chenyi Zhu, who is a PhD researcher at Leeds University Business School. And she's going to talk today about everybody's favorite topic, which is related to food. She's a specialist in consumer behavior, food psychology, and sustainability. And she's going to touch on a range of different subjects about how Chinese and Western eaters see food differently. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Chenyi Zhu, who I believe has got a microphone clipped on, so she won't need this. So let me pop this back. Okay, awesome.
Thanks, Jake. So thanks again for everyone to join us today here. And today we're talking about food, but not just what we eat. So we'll look at how food reflects like culture, values, emotions, and even our mental status and sustainability things. So from dinner table in China to supermarkets in the UK, I'll take you through some surprising contrasts in how we think about and how we treat the food. So a little about myself. So I'm a PhD researcher at Leeds University Business School, and my background is from psychology and communication studies. So that's why my research focuses on also the food, psychology, like sustainability campaigns and so on. I guess I.
Roll to the right, please.
Come on in. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So obviously, I'm a foodie, and I'm interested in the food worldwide. That's why I'm really interested in the food research, because I think food not just food, it's culture and its value. It's everything. So before we dive into the specifics of Chinese and Western food and eating habits, let's take a step back and ask, what does food actually tell us? So food psychology tell us about food is not just what we eat, it's how we think, behave, and connect. So we mentioned food psychology here. It's about understanding what drives our choices, from why we love some foods, why we avoid some foods, and how culture, emotion, and memory influence what end up on our plate. So we could see on the slides, food psychology include the area of food choice, eating behavior, social and cultural influences, food aversion and xenophobia, and more on that. So please see the right side. There's a diagram. So in today's lecture, we will cover from like people, how people think about food, how they choose the food differently, and how they eat, how they shop, and pass to the sustainable thing, like how people deal with the food waste. As the anthropologist Kwang Chi-chung once said, I quote his what he said here: one of the best way of getting to a culture's heart would be through its stomach. So that's why we focus on food to explore the culture things. Just by looking at these four images, we can already start to sense some differences. In some culture, meals are served individually, while in others, dishes are shared among peoples. So like here and here, so they are different. Now let's take a closer look at how Chinese and Western consumers actually differ in how they choose food and how they eat. So here is the content of our today's lecture. We will start with the difference between Chinese and Western consumers of food choice, the difference between Chinese and Western eating behavior, and then pass to the how people approach food waste differently, and about my own research about we research on the wonky food, those ugly fruits and vegetables. So here the basic of the psychology beyond food choice. Um, I try to like separate those boring psychological things into the easy and clear words in the next part. But first, let's go through it with this. So we always think we choose food based on taste, price, or health. But in reality, many of our food decisions are made automatically without conscious thought. That's based on our past experience, our culture, our beliefs, attitudes, and you just made the decision without deliberate thinking and made the decision at the maybe at the moment of buying when the food just you stand in front of the display of food. So now first we talk about emotion. So thank you. So some food choice they are motivated by environmental ethical concern. For example, like some people they don't eat meat because they think that's cruel. Um, Also, let's talk about the social influence. Like, it's easy to understand. Like, have you ever like out gone out with your friends and but change your order based on what they pick? So that's the social psychology in action, like family traditions, peers, and even table manners can shape what we choose. And then the cognitive process, like our brain takes shortcuts. For example, if it look good, it must be good. Packaging, color, and shape can all affect how we judge food, even if the taste is the same. So that shortcut help us make very quick decision, but it can also lead to some bias. And this we'll talk later. This also lead to some food waste. Also, the last one, the belief and attitudes. That will be related with culture. Beliefs is about how morality or identity affect food choice. So, like maybe in Chinese culture, we will think hot soup is good, basic, and raw food is natural. But in Western culture, people think differently. That's because of the belief and attitude. So let's start compare with the Chinese food and Western food. When we look at what people eat, one of the biggest difference between Chinese and Western diets is the role of meat versus plant-based ingredients. So in many parts of China, not all parts of China, because like China is a very big country, the traditional diet is largely plant-based, I believe. And the meals often revolve around grains, vegetables like tofu and other soil products. Meat is used and common, but of course they are often in small amounts, mainly to add flavor, not at the start of the dish. So maybe you can see the images here. Um, it's like I think it's the pork strip like fried with the leek. So meat not the star of this dish, but yeah, we use it to add flavor in the dish. So instead of a big steak on the plate, you might see like some also some little chicken strips or mince mixed into a very how to say that, like veggie heavy soup. That's a Chinese style plant-based uh, diets, but we so compare with Western people, Chinese people, I think they most of them consume less meat than the Western people because of our diet. And one interesting thing is vegetarianism in Chinese culture isn't it's historical. It's have a very long-term history, but it isn't just about like healthy concern or environmental concern or ethical concern. It's already deeply tied in spiritual practice in Chinese culture, like compassion and self-discipline. Self-discipline. Think of like Buddhist monks or Taoist dietary beliefs. Like many people think um, eating vegetable and avoid meat is kind of fortune. Like it will maybe bring luck to all family. It will benefit all families' life. I believe like every Chinese have a grandparent they may or the other elder people they around our life they may vegetarian I think, but not for their moral concern about animal rights or some other thing just because I think the religious like yeah, but it's historical and existing in Chinese diets for a very long time. Now let's compare that to the Western side. So yeah, that's just the very general view for the Western diets, not include all the like Western eating culture or something. So in many Western countries, meals are typically meat-based. And you often see like larger portion of meat, like a steak or like a chicken breast, placed in the middle of the plate with vegetable served on the side. So this idea, the idea of meatless eating in Western culture, I think it's often seen as a special decision, usually connected with vegetarianism, animal rights, and climate concern. So, in other words, not eating meat is often a statement, but whereas in Chinese cuisine, it's sometimes just what's for dinner. And I think in China, there are many restaurants, they only offer the vegetable food, not no meat at all. And I'm not a vegetarian and I'm not a vegan, but I still will go to those restaurants because they are so delicious. The vegetable cuisine they offer there is amazing. I like the flavor. So what I want to say is, whilst both culture are increasingly talking about plant-based eating, meatless eating, I think the motivations and traditions behind those meals can be very different. Yeah. So take a short break from the theory, play a quick game. So you can see some dishes on the screen. All of them look like meat, and they are all Chinese dishes. So try to guess which one are real meat or which one is not real meat. This one, not real meat. How about this one? It's real. It's not real. How about the two dishes on the right side? They are real? Okay. Oh, surprise! So these two are raw meats. And the next guess what ingredients those fake meats are made from. How about tofu? And more guess? Soya? So it's a traditional Chinese meat cuisine, I think, called dongpo rou. Rice? Okay. It's bright reddish. But the sauce in this dish, I think it's the totally same with the true meat dishes. And for this one, it's from winter melon. So yeah, that's the Chinese plant-based cuisine. Okay, one more. They are also the same dishes called mushiro, but one is made with the real meat, one is not. It's not real. Okay, let's guess what it's made from.
Lotus.
Lotus? Mm-hmm. Aubergine? Oh, innovative guess. Maybe. Yeah. No, not the gluten. It's the soy curd. Yeah, it's a soy curd. So I think it's the soy curd is like it's a very common ingredient in Chinese cuisine used to do the version for the meat dishes. So we always use this. We always cook the soybean maybe similar with the when we cook the meat dishes. It's quite interesting, right? So what can we reflect from Chinese plant-based meal is that so people eat with their eyes. That's from the many research that the appearance of food is quite important for people to eat. So no matter how nutritious or sustainable a food is, if it looks strange or unfamiliar, many people hesitate it. So we know, like in Western countries, cultured meat, like lab-based meat, is quite popular. It's a trending thing. But the research shows that there are still many people they don't like those cultured meat. They think that they are disgusting, they are maybe risky, or something like that. That's why. So that's why products like cultured meat face a really tough challenge in Western culture, because we judge the food based on its appearance and about our past experience. We like the familiar food. We hate like some innovative or new food, because that means risk. But very interesting thing is research show that Chinese consumers tend to be more open to the cultured meats. Um, I guess that might be Chinese cuisine is full of foods like look like meat but aren't. And like tofu skin, konjac, mushrooms, and wheat gluten. We always cook them like in the similar way, or when we compare with we cook meat dishes. Um, so people are used to different texture and don't always expect food to look or behavior like a real stick, I think. And that's what we can learn from Chinese um, plant-based meal and vegetarian traditions, which are creative, flavorful, and deeply rooted in our culture. So these dishes are trying not trying to um, imitate the real meal, just look like the meat, not the real meat. They simply stand on their own, the food per se, the ingredients per se. So in contrast, in many Western culture, the research showed that the vegetarian food is still seen as a sacrifice, something maybe less tasty, or something you eat only for ethical or environment concern. But yeah, Chinese plant-based meals, um, it offers a counter example, I think. You can have food that's the vegetarian food that's satisfying, delicious, but meat-free, without needing to like um, feel apologize for it when you consume it. So we think about the future of sustainable eating, whether the culture meat plant-based diets or reducing food. We might ask, what can different cultures learn from each other? Because I think the culture meat is trending in the Western culture, but not in the Chinese market yet. Um, So I think we can learn from each other, like how to promote the sustainable food choice, how to promote sustainable diets. So that's why it will be beneficial if we try to realize different food culture and food behavior. So after talking about the food choice per se, let's move to the action of eating for those food. So yes, Chinese people and Western people eat in different ways, and what we eat and how we eat in turn influencing our thinking and behavior. So modern research tells us something fascinating. Um, so that's a direct two-way link between our gut and our brain. That's called gut-brain axis. So what does that mean in practice? It means that what we eat doesn't just affect our body, it affects our mind. So your gut affects your mind. What you eat also influence what you think, what you are thinking about. So, for example, a healthy gut and a healthy diet can reduce stress and improve mood. An unhealthy diet might increase anxiety, depressing, and also influence how you made a decision. I'm not the expert of neuroscience, so just interesting thing from the neuroscience. So it's the main communication happens through the vagus nerve. Um, it's kind of information highway between your brain and the gut. So the fun fact is, your gut produce over 90% of the body's serotonin. Serotonin is a chemical linked to the mink about happiness. And here where it gets even more interesting. Like different cultures feed their bodies in different ways, which means they are also shaping their emotions, stress response, and perception in different ways. That's what I mean here about culture as a reflection of the gut. For instance, what's comforting in one country may be upset another person's stomach. For instance, a creamy cheese pasta might feel like a huge hunk to someone from Italy, but for someone from traditional Chinese culture, it might be feel heavy or unsettling. So it's quite interesting. So one more culture experiment from Chinese perspective is how how food may shape not just our gut, but our personality. So in Southwest China, like Sichuan or Chongqing, people love eat spicy food. They are hot like and bold flavor food. Um, and culturally, there is a stereotype in China. Like we think the people from these regions may be more outspoken, emotionally expressive, and they are have more passion about like have a network with other people. So that's 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 a really fun stereotype, but there might be some science behind it. Because spicy food contain capsaicin, so it's a chemical that active nerves, boost circulation, and even trigger the release of dopamine. So it's make people like feel good and feel more passion about the build network with other people. On the flip side, in the eastern part of China, diets tend to be more mild and cooling and balanced, not so spicy. And I'm the people who from the east part of China, which some believe there's a stereotype believe that the it will correlated with more calm personality in the east part of China. So that's what we say like culture as a reflection of God. So now we've moved to like to explore two ways of thinking about how to eat well in East and West. So in this slide, we are comparing two broad systems. The Eastern perspective, especially rooted in traditional Chinese medicine, and the Western perspective based on modern nutrition science. They both aim for health, but they approach it from very different directions. So in traditional Chinese medicine perspective, food is seen as something like nourish qi. I don't know how to explain this in English. I'm not an expert of the Chinese medicine, but you can understand it as an energy enriching your body. And it's also balanced yin and yang. The food balanced yin and yang support our inner harmony. In traditional Chinese thinking, food is connected to the whole body and the mind. You doesn't just treat a headache. You treat the your stomach and your emotion behind it. Use the food. So a Chinese grandma may tell you that do not eat cold food in the winter. That's not because of unhealthy, just because it's out of balance of your body's needs. Your body don't need cold food in the winter. So, but in contrast, the Western view is based on the biochemistry and the modern nutrition studies. So food is broken down into calories, vitamins, proteins, carbs, and the focus on it, I think the number, like how many calories should I eat, and what's my recommended iron intake. It's about performance, efficiency, and I think that also about disease prevention. So food is similar like fuel in nutrition study, something to manage, count, and optimize. But neither system is better or worse. The two views are not opposite, I think, but they reflect two systems of understanding our body, the food, and what we eat. So today, I think science is slowly rediscovering some of these connections. So the mind of body link here. So it's the two systems are starting to meet, I think. Like when brain research confirms what traditional Chinese medicine has said for centuries, like our body is related with our mind, and the food we intake influence our gut, and the gut communicate to our brain through the highway communication nerve. Another interesting cultural difference lies in how we eat, not just what we eat. So let's look at dining behavior. So do you eat with your family or friends with a shared plans or with individual plans? Share individual. So obviously, I think, yeah, Chinese versus Western. Yeah, so in China, sharing food isn't just about passing dishes around. It's often a way to show care and respect, especially across generation. For example, during family meals, elders might pick up a piece of meat or vegetable and place it into a younger person's bowl. That small action says like, I care about you. I want you to eat well. So it's not just a simple action. It has some cultural meaning. If you like to reject this behavior, you reject the meat or vegetables shared from your family, that might show some like maybe not 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 respect the elder generation, I think. So sharing food means sharing warmth, connection, and care. So now on the right, we see a more Western style meal. So everyone get their own plate and their own portion. I think the portion is also the distinct difference between the Chinese food and Western food. It's more individual, I think. Sometimes it's emphasized like personal choice. You can choose your own main dish in the restaurant, or it's for dietary needs. So this style also reflects idea like individual boundaries or eating as a personal choice. So, but I think in Western context, food sharing can also happen, like splitting a pizza, or offer something a bite of your dessert. Um, but it's usually more optional, not happen every time. Western sharing is more voluntary and not symbolic. It's less about the etiquette of the eating the table. So I think both cultures share food, just in different ways and with different meanings. So far, we've looked at the food from many angles, from science, from how it's affect the mind and body, from nutrition, how we define health, from behavior, how we eat in social and cultural contexts. Now let's take a moment to look at something about the philosophy behind the eating. There is a beautiful quote from a Chinese documentary. It's called Once Upon a Bite. I really like this documentary. It's really good. So let's capture this idea like human activity bring food together, but the gathering and part of food also orchestrate the meeting and separation of people. What some Western culture might call fate, the Chinese call 缘分, a destinated connection. Let's reflects a worldview where meals are not just about surviving or nutrition, but about human connection. Eating become a kind of storytelling, one that links like memory, identity, and uh, relationship. And I highly recommend this Chinese documentary about food. Um, so you will see like the things from China to Mexico, showing that while dishes differ, the emotion power of the food is universal. So in Chinese food culture, I think it is not just a routine or a house habit. It's a way of saying I remember you, I care about you, and we are connected from because we eat together. So after everything we've discussed from psychology, health, culture, care, comes a much more serious issue, the food waste. So every year around 30% of the food produced globally is wasted. That's not just the food, that's the land, that's water, labor, and energy. So sometimes waste is obvious, like the images you can see here, or eaten pasta scrapped straight into the bin. But sometimes it's much harder to see. And that's where we are going next, into different types of food waste and how different culture plays a role. So in China, about half of total food waste, nearly 70 million tons each year, happens at the consumption stage. So meaning the restaurant, canteens, and household. One reason is Chinese eating out culture. Traditionally, ordering extra food is a way to show generosity and respect from host to guest, especially when in banquets, business dinner, or family gatherings. So people often intentionally over order to avoid seemingly like stingy, and this can lead to a huge amount of waste. To tackle this, Chinese government has launched the Clean Planet campaign, so aims to encourage people to finish what they order and reduce overserving. But in the UK, the food waste issue is different. Most food waste actually happen at home. Over 70% of it, in fact. The causes are more familiar to many of us, buying too much and not using ingredients before they expire, cooking too much and not finish it, or just not like certain part of the food. Like maybe in China we eat the whole fish, but in the UK or in Western cultures, people like prefer like fish fillets rather than the whole fish. So there are also many campaigns aiming to reduce the food waste in the UK. Those campaigns has mostly focused on the education to help people waste less at home, and from meal planning and use the leftover creatively, use the refrigerator correctly. So I think in China, food waste often comes from hospitality culture and social experience, or the social expectations. And in the UK, it's more about habits, about kitchen planning. But in both cases, whether it's a banquet table or freight drawer, the outcome is the same. So those food which could be still be edible, but they are discarded. Also, there another type of waste that just as serious and often goes completely unnoticed by the average people. So this type of waste happen before the food even reaches your home or your plate. It's food that rejects at the sorting and the gardening stage on farms, the retail level due to the cosmetic standard, or even by consumers in the supermarket, just because those fresh produce don't look right. And it's what my research focuses on, those ugly fruits and vegetables. So these items are perfectly edible, safe, and nutritious, but they are oddly shaped, slightly bruised, and not visually perfect. So they are discarded by us. Consumers might say they are disgusting. They don't want to eat them. So the system and our mind treat them as less valuable. So finally, they end up in the bin. So let's take a closer look at how Chinese and Western consumer differ, or maybe don't differ when it comes to rejecting imperfect fruits and vegetables. So in some settings, I believe Chinese consumers seem to be more flexible to those ugly fruits and vegetables. For example, like people in the traditional markets, they they are concerned less with appearance about those fruits and vegetables. Um, but on the other hand, Western consumers, especially in the countries like UK and US, tend to show a stronger appearance bias overall. Studies show people in Western contexts strongly associate appearance with freshness and safety, and they prefer symmetrical and standard-sized produce, often reject wonky items, even when they are cheaper. So in many cases, ugly food is seen as low quality and even unfit for sale. I think the difference might because in the past thousands of years, China is a traditional agriculture-oriented country. We know the original appearance of these fresh produce without human intervention. However, the Western countries have been industrial for more than 200 years, and the industrialization changed the way people interact with those fresh produce. We made the ingredients at the supermarkets, but those fresh produce just look like as supermodels. They are selected based on our preference. And on the media, all food are looking perfect, include those fruits and vegetables. So the perfect looking of these fruits and veggies have been embedded into our mind. But although Chinese consumers used to be more accepting in those ugly fruits and vegetables in daily life, the shift towards modern retail and global standards may be closing that gap. So the younger generation in China, they also like associate those the perfect appearance closely with freshness, good quality, and so on. In recent years, there has been a clear shift in how supermarkets, NGOs, and the consumers think about ugly food. So in the UK, supermarkets campaigns in Tesco, Lidl's, and NGOs like RAP promote education on food waste reduction. And also, there is a platform called Oldbox that deliver surplus or wonky fruits and vegetables directly to consumers. Those interventions are creative and it works, I think, but it's hard to say it changed the unconscious mind embedded in consumers' mind. And in China, there are also some supermarket campaigns like emphasize the ugly equal to naturalness without pesticides, and some online retail platform they promote to selling ugly apple. So use some interesting words like being ugly is my pride. It isn't a flaw. Yeah, this tomato guy said it isn't my flaw. It's mark left for kissed by nature. However, people still reject those ugly fruits and vegetables. That's where our research comes in. We want to investigate the implicit attitudes towards those ugly fruits and vegetables, because consumers don't always tell the truth; they lie. In our online survey, like many people, they say they will buy the imperfect fresh produce. They accept those imperfect fresh produce, but at the point of buying, they still reject them unconsciously. So our research aims to explore people's implicit attitudes towards ugly fruits and vegetables, increase the attractiveness of wonky fruits and vegetables by using visual cues, because people care about the appearance of those fresh produce. Furtherly, we want to reduce the consumer's negative perception towards those ugly fruits and vegetables in a subconscious way. So we use the visual cue called implied motion. So it's a visual phenomenon where static images appear to convey sense of motion. At the right side, there's some examples. So implied motion can guide attention, enhance visual attractiveness, and even cause static objects to be perceived as moving. But previous study, they always focus on those beautiful food. They use the visual cues to make beautiful food look more beautiful. No one care about those poor, ugly fresh produce. So we want to rescue those poor, ugly fruits and vegetables. And about implicit attitudes. So we do not always know why we act the way we do. Most people don't know why we reject those wonky fruits and vegetables at the point of purchasing them. So if we want to understand why consumers reject imperfect produce, we need to uncover their true attitudes beyond what they say. The traditional self-report method may miss the automatic biases between the ugly and the bad. So there is an intuition called ugly equal to bad embedded in our mind. So we focus on the implicit attitudes, those automatic, unconscious evaluations. And these attitudes actually can influence our behavior without us even realizing it. And it's quite important for making food decisions. And this is our experiment. It's called implicit attitude association test. I won't go through the whole experiment because it's boring technical thing. So it's like a category sorting task. So people sit in front of the participants in front of the screen, and there will be some images appear on the screen. They should make the decision as quick as possible. Use the 2 fingers. So we record how quickly participants categorize words or images when these are paired in congruent or incongruent combinations. So here are some examples of our stimuli. We use the splashing water as a visual cue in our experiment to try to figure out whether this implied motion will promote the perception toward those fresh produce. And this is a sequence of our IAT study. It's boring thing, not important. And here comes our some results. Just ignore the data. So we found people react quicker in the congruent trials. That means people think pair with the perfect fresh produce with positive thing and pair with imperfect fresh produce with negative thing is much more easier than pair with the incongruent trials. So the incongruent trials is we put the perfect fresh produce with negative attributes and imperfect fresh produce with positive attributes. So they react quicker in the congruent trials. And we also calculate this score. It's a metric used in psychological experiments. So our D score was 0.48. It's moderate to strong implicit association. So it means this association between the ugly equal to bad is moderate to strong. And also this brings us to our most important finding from our linear mixed model. So we found a significant interaction between implied motion and the produce type, like perfect versus imperfect. So in the static condition, people have a moderate to strong automatic association of both perfect and imperfect. There is no difference. But in the motion condition after we applied motion to the image. Perfect produce is still strongly associated with positive attributes, but the imperfect fresh produce shows a reduction of the strength of those negative association. What that mean? That means we use the implied motion, and this implied motion visual cue reduce the negative association of for those imperfect fresh produce. Like people won't have a strong intuition as before. They won't related those ugly fruits and vegetables strongly with those negative attributes like lower quality, disgusting, or unfresh. So to wrap up, this study shows that even subtle design elements like a word selection can shift the way people intuitively respond to the fresh produce. So it might be help reduce the automatic ugly equal to bad association. So which opens up potential practical application. So as we come to the end of today's talk, I'd like to reflect on what we've explored together. So we've seen how Chinese and Western consumers may eat differently, but how we judge food, especially when it comes to waste and imperfections, is a shared human challenge. From what we eat and how we eat, whether shared our individual with chopsticks or forks, food rituals carry deep cultural meanings. And so if we want to change how the system works, we first need to change how we think. Because before food ends up in the bin, it passes through our eyes, our beliefs, and our cultural thinking. So I think it's quite important to learn from each other, different eating culture, different attitudes towards food, to promote our eating, promote our sustainable choice. Maybe a small change will lead to a big promotion. Thank you so much for joining us today on this exploration of appetites. I hope this talk have given you something to think, and maybe even next time you see a wonky carrot or apple. Thank you very much.
Okay. Right, guys. Well, thank you so much for that. That was a really interesting and fascinating presentation. Now, originally we did say the event would run till 2, but we're just going to fit in some questions. If people do need to shoot off, then feel free to. But yes, if we can open up to some questions. Linny is also over there online. So if anybody has a question online, let me know as well. And what I'll do just to make sure that people can hear online is I'll come bring the microphone to you. So does anyone have a question to start with? Okay, looks like Chenyi's got one, so let me run over to her. There you go.
Hi, thank you so much for your sharing today, which give us an overall understanding about the food, especially the culture, philosophy, health, and even storytelling behind this food, of course, in both Chinese and Western cultures. But before you officially introduced the wonky food to us, I actually expected that wonky food refers to those ugly parts of the animals that we eat, like pig feet or chicken feet, something like that. So I was quite curious that why those ugly parts of the feet, the ugly parts of the meat or the animals that we eat are considered as unwelcoming or distasteful, disgusting, especially in Western cultures. So perhaps, well, one of our audience today may help solve my confusion. Thank you. That's my question.
Yeah, because that's definitely a cultural difference, because in the Western culture, there are no traditions to eat like the feet part of the meat of the chicken like that, because they think it's a like moral thing. It's there's maybe a mental simulation in our mind. We always associate with those part of the meat as a risky thing. They are weird, and they relate with death, the body. So they think it's disgusting. That's my hope this could answer your question. But yeah, there are some research actually investigate like is why Western people thought those cultured meats are disgusting. I think that maybe some reason or they reject the part of the meat you mentioned, that just because they are unfamiliar with that. Yeah. Also the fish head, I think. Thank you.
Anyone else with a question? Okay. This gentleman over here had his hand up first, so let me come to him first.
Interesting talk. Thank you. I'm interested in the food appearance and, the food waste at the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
The label we see here, the used by or best before, we don't see that much in China.
Yeah.
So did you study or did you come across any study that look into this and find out, shall we let the expert tell us what is good, what is bad, or shall we leave the customers to decide which practice will lead to more waste of food in the supermarket?
Really good question. Although I'm not doing research in this field, but in the UK, there have some research like indicate the food label lead to more food waste, because people think, oh, it has expired, and we just discard it, but actually it's still edible. And I think there are also some campaigns in the UK. They encourage supermarkets and retailers to remove the best before label from those fresh produce. So for the fresh fruits, based on their appearance, we could judge their freshness, or whether it still could be edible based on their appearance. So yeah.
Thank you for your sharing. It's really amazing. And I was deeply impressed by the part about from gut to mind, because I've never thought about that. Oh, what we eat could influence what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a kind of silly question, which is like, if my comfort food is like junk food, like fried chicken or hot pot, but it could reduce my stress level, let's say before an exam. Should I keep eating those healthy food to, maybe be more clear-minded in the exam or score higher in the exam, or should I just never mind, have that kind of fried chicken?
Okay, really interesting question. So let's answer this from the traditional Chinese medicine perspective. So we emphasize on the balance. So it makes you happy. So obviously you can still intake of them, but just about the amount of food the junk food you intake, I think. So I mean, yeah, the frequency. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your talk. One thing which is obsessing Western culture is that we eat too much ultra processed food,
Mm.
And we are now being warned against it, but we still continue to do it. Are those issues live discussions in China?
Yes, I think, yeah, it's a really valuable question. I think China is on the way of that. We have more and more processed food than before. That's also, I think that might be an issue in the future if China still process with the industrialization. And I think when I was a young kid, my parents always buy food from the traditional market, but now also buy food from supermarket. They buy the processed food, but in the past we didn't do that.
In Britain as well.
Yeah.
Did we have any questions? Oh,
Yes, that was a very interesting lecture. Thank you. Have you taken into account the influence on eating habits of travel? People now travel to more countries more often for holidays, maybe to work, maybe to live. And they try different foods in different places. Do you think that that influences people's habits in the long term? Or do they simply try it and go back home and get back into the same old habits?
I think that's definitely long-term impact. That will be lifelong impact. So once you have tried a new food, there will be a mark in your brain, so in your body. I think like people, there's a one theory called embodied cognition that your body's experience builds your mind. Every experience, include food experience, will like shape your mind, shape your body, whatever the impact is like is huge or small. So yeah, I think so.
And also in your studies, do you take account of people's reluctance to eat certain items simply because they have a perceived allergy to that food, or they might have a reaction to that food that they might find unpleasant? And then we have a saying in England that says, I don't like it because I've never tried it.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
reject things without ever wanting to try it.
Yes.
You need to change
Yeah.
it to believe.
Yeah, that's really a good question. We include that in our research. We asked participants like, have you ever eaten those fresh produce? Do you like these fresh produce, etc.? Like to test their existed attitude towards those fresh produce we used in our experiment. So we just used 6 fresh produce in our experiment: tomato, orange, strawberry, apple, carrot, and cucumber. So we ask like each by each. Thank you.
okay, we've got one more.
One more, sorry. The first time I ever saw people taking pictures of the meals before they ate them was when eating with Chinese people. I don't know if Chinese people invented that practice, and of course it's a part of a new digital age, but is there anything special about taking pictures before you eat it?
That's quite interesting. Like taking picture of the food, maybe.
That be because if you feel ill afterwards, you can show your doctor.
Yeah, like record our life, record the happiness the food brings to us. Maybe.
I think on the whole, it's to send it to your relatives in China.
Yeah.
Take a picture. That was the original.
Yeah.
When people began to have mobile phones.
So I say like food, the relationship, build the connection. Like all Chinese people always use food as a bridge for communication. Like what have you eat for today's dinner, today's lunch? It's just like UK people ask about weather. We ask about food.
Excellent. No questions online. Okay, so thank you so much for that. Thank you for those interesting questions as well. Big round of applause for Chenyi.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just to remind you, today's event was hosted by the Business Confucius Institute, and we teach Mandarin, Chinese language. So if any of you have got an interest in learning some Chinese language, you're welcome to sign up with us. I think our next term will be starting in approximately October. So a little bit of wait for that, but yeah, keep in touch with us. And we also host events about Chinese culture with knowledge sharing, from Chinese food to Chinese sport, Chinese history, all types of things. So if you're not following us, I'm guessing a lot of you are on our newsletter and get our emails that we send out, but you can follow us on Instagram or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, which is where I found Chenyi. And
It's mine.
so she's also popped her LinkedIn, how do you say that in English? QR code. Can't believe that. That's how you say it in Chinese. And she's popped an email there. Is that if people want to get in contact with you?
Yeah.
So if anyone does have any follow-up questions, then they would be welcome to contact her. But I shall bring the event to an end now, unless Linny can think of anything else I need to mention. No, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good day. And we'll go back out into the sun. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chenyi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just click end record on the Teams. 1 sec. I think it just turned off itself. No, you just pop it in there.
I hope the lecture was not too boring.
No, it was fantastic.
You tried it.
Just leave, yeah.
Yeah, just try it.